Hey, this is Alan Johannes. This is Guitar Power. I'm sitting here with Ruban Nielson of Unknown Mortal Orchestra. Thank you for being here, my friend.
Thanks for having me.
So tell me, when did you start, and what was the driving force?
My dad was like a session player in the 80s, and he went through a 12-step program. And one of the steps, I can't remember which one, was like making amends. And one of the things he did to make amends to me was like bought me a guitar. And a friend of mine was really getting me into punk rock a lot at the end of high school. And me and my brother kind of realized like I can play like these songs, like I can do this. It's like start a punk band.
Can you show us a little example of some of those early punk songs, the punk days?
It's called Fuck the Golden Youth. It was a good example of like what I used to play. So this thing here and this thing here was like Jimi Hendrix, like starting to creep into like the punk thing.
Right.
Because Jimmy would always play like that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
His thumb is like over the thing,
yeah,
and he's like
yeah,
playing with his thumb separately, and that always made an impression on me, like way before like I played the guitar.
And so after this initial period of playing punk stuff, and then how did you start to develop further, just through writing songs?
Yeah, and stuff that I'm doing now, I think, is a lot of the influence of like the music that my dad kind of raised us on, which is like songs in the key of life, like era, like Stevie Wonder, and yeah, things like Zappa. Like my lead guitar playing, I think is like pretty much a Zappa ripoff, because I always like really liked his lead guitar playing. You'd be playing a lot of the typical licks, so if you're kind of learning like you know, something like that, like. But he'll be like playing it over this.
Right.
With that root note. You know, which is like a blues box basically, but it's just like kind of got this chord. You know, it's really cool. That's like a Zappa thing, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Like it's a tension and release against the you know, implied harmony. It's awesome.
It's hard for me to pinpoint. Like I'm ripping off so many things at the same time. I'm trying to like rip off as many things and then play it in the wrong sound, like timbre or something, and then kind of mix everything up so it never feels like completely lifted. But you can always tell that there's a lot of like different influences in there.
And then in terms of your melodic sensibility and that kind of unusual melodies and things like that, was that coming from the Stevie Wonder stuff? And
you know, like I got into writing songs. You know, I started hearing bands like the Buzzcocks, and then it made me think like, oh man, writing songs must be really fun. Did a lot of simple kind of these kind of like, you know, like. You know, a lot of that stuff, like 1/4 stuff, and so I started there, and then I started to think about like, you know, these kind of like classic chord changes, like, you know, that kind of thing. But like when I started UMO, it was more like, you know, I would put in like add nines and, you know, don't know much about history, but it's like. So good at being in trouble. It's like the same kind of thing, but then you go like, and you do something that they wouldn't do, like modulated or something, just to make it like have that like romantic like feeling, and that was what was missing from Zappa, I think. It's like he wasn't like romantic enough.
Yeah.
And then you listen to Sam Cooke and you're like, oh no, that's really good. It could be a little weirder or something.
Yeah.
But they're still all constructed from these same chords. There's a new song called Like Acid Rain, and the intro is like, you know, and so it's like kind of a crazy change, but it's like still just.
That's really cool, because it's kind of a little bit of a jazz voicing kind of vibe.
Yeah, I guess it's like the add 9 thing. What my pinky finger's adding to it kind of makes the chord seem, because like a Jimi Hendrix thing is like, you know, it's kind of. That kind of thing. But if you do that, it kind of like all of a sudden like changes it slightly, which is the same idea as that Zappa thing. Really, it was just like
exactly.
adding like the one note in there that kind of throws things out of, like it's American music, but it's like taken off kilter enough to make it feel fresh again. I think that feeling, that weird like off kilter feeling that you're breaking the rules, is actually in the early blues as well. You know, it's like you know, like this is the kind of blues that I'm like not really. It's not that exciting, you know. But then like, you know, the Rob Johnson thing that's cool is he'll play like a. Yeah. I don't know. It's just like all the little structures that are in there.
And very often it was tied into the vocal too, wasn't it? You know, like
Yeah.
it was kind of some unison notes and some.
Yeah,
you know,
and blue notes, you know, notes that don't like fit or whatever. I learned so much. I went and saw Pharoah Sanders one time. He was playing this one, probably like the most intense solo of the whole night, and it got really crazy, and it was getting to the point where you could hear like a lot of pain in what he was playing, and it was really wild sounding. And then at one point, he just drops the horn and just like is just screaming into the microphone. Push the music away, and he's just kind of screaming.
He started screaming? Like
Yeah, just screaming into the microphone. And I was just like, whoa. It just kind of blew my mind, because it was just like, you know, it's like the point actually isn't like any of that stuff. It's kind of like, that's that thing about transcendence. I really felt like he was expressing something really painful at that moment. And then he thought like the best thing he could do, possibly
Right.
do at that point, is just to put the horn
Right.
aside and just scream into the microphone.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You find yourself on stage getting to that point too, where you're playing and you just go, ah, you just.
Yeah, and try to keep that in mind, that things can completely like fall to pieces. Like that's a totally valid like place to go. It's like for everything to just like collapse, you know.
Yeah.
And but you know, it's like it's not anything new, you know. It's like, you know, at some point, like Jimmy just like playing his solo, he just like smashes his guitar, and like Sonic Youth taking drills to their guitars and stuff like that.
Did you ever play around with it, that kind of stuff, that physical things you can do to the guitar as you're playing?
Yeah, I mean,
Like little using objects, or just you know, playing different parts.
one of the things that really affected my playing, I saw Bill Frisell play, and this like thing of like taking the whole guitar and like using it to affect the reverb. You know, that's so like Frisell. You know, Frisell does so many cool things, but to me, this is like such an innovation, because it's like a thing you use like a chorus pedal for, but you don't need to.
Exactly.
And this is like the most analog.
Or even a tremolo bar. It's so much, you know, it's so much fuller and more less defined than doing it like this.
Yeah, right. And I lost my tremolo bar, so it's kind of like I like this idea of like wrestling with the neck, just like, and it's just like this piece of wood, you know.
Oh, it's a great sound, and it also widens things, you know. I read somewhere that sometimes you go ahead and build your own stuff just to get that sound that's in your head that maybe you're not finding somewhere else.
I started getting into that because this guitar is like, it was really failing a lot. It was like, well, we were touring a lot, and it used to kind of break down, and I thought like, oh, how hard could it be? And I started like taking it apart, and then I would try to fix it, and then ruin it, and then I have to send it to the guy, and he's like, what did you do? Like, oh, just tried to fix it myself.
Want to do a little jamming? Feel like playing a little something?
Sure.
Ruben, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Elaine.
Thanks so much.
Thanks.